Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor. We are jumping into the 7R and about to get underway with our planting on the start of our second day of spring here. Let's just manoeuvre ourselves outside. We need to go and grab our brand new cedar, put that through its paces for the first time. There we go. Let's get the light on as well. There we go. Get backed up. There we go. Right. We're going to start on field 19, which is our brand new, freshly cultivated and prepared new stretch of land. First we need to get this thing filled up, and we know from experience just how awkward these tanks are, so hopefully we'll be okay just here. Yes, there we go. We need to change our seed type. We're going to be putting in barley on that field. So there we go. Find barley. Close the lid. See, the sun is still making its way up at the moment. It's just peeking up over there. And we do need to do some work with our cows today as well. Once we get our seeding sort of taken care of, they are starting to run very, very low on water and food. So that has to be done by, before we end the day. I don't think they'll have enough to go through the night. There we go. There's our greenhouses that have been working really well for us, keeping us looking nice and healthy with the old bank balance. It's great to have that extra little bit of income. Really is making a difference. And here we go. Here is our target field. Let's get the cedar unfolded. And we'll get lined up on the edge of the field. There we go. So this field shouldn't take us very long at all, actually. Now that we're using our new 18-meter cedar, we should get this job done pretty quickly, I think. Once we get kind of the main bulk of the border done, it's going to be just a few passes down that central line, and then just kind of tidying up the edges. So it shouldn't take us very long to get this done at all. I'm going to hold off on doing the bottom border until I've actually got all the sort of up and down bits done, and then on our return pass we'll make sure that we get the border squared away. I want that at the bottom to be one of the last things that we do. Oh, looks like I did leave a very thin line there. I can just see that little bit of line poking through. Actually, it's quite a big bit, isn't it? Did I miss an entire thin patch? I must have done. I must have forgotten to go back down the field. Luckily, it's furrowed underneath. It's ploughed rather than stubble from a previous harvest. So it's not going to cause us any major issues, which is a good thing, I suppose. Could have been a lot worse. Could have had to bring the cultivator out to clean that out before we could continue, but luckily that will not be the case. So I'm going to just get a worker to run back up the field for me while I try and square this edge off here. So I just want a little bit of an overlap. Just a little bit. That should be enough. Just to trigger the worker. There we go, and it's gone very, very dark because the worker always turns the lights off ridiculously early. But the sun is coming up by sort of 7:30. It should be quite a bit brighter. And of course, we'll stick the lights back on as soon as we get to the end of the row. It is actually normally a fair bit brighter than this at this time in the morning, but because we have a cloudy day, it's definitely impacting just how much light that we actually do have. We've just got this kind of light that hasn't permeated across to the second part of the map yet, so to speak. It's holding the light from flooding across the map, whereas on a clear day, it's normally much brighter than this by now. Hard to see, but I think I might be able to get most, if not, well, not all of it, but most of that I'll be able to get done in a single pass on our right hand side there. Well, now on our right hand side I should be able to cover most of that in a single run. Let's get the lights back on. Yeah, I'm going to have a little bit at the top. Just a little bit though, look at that, look how thin that gap's going to be. So get the planter on, just try and run a straightish kind of line, just play it a little bit safe, and there we go, that's it. It's just that tiny thin little piece at the top, and now we're just filling in that gap. This is going to make planting so quick and so easy. I can't wait to attack field 18 with this thing. That field took me hours last time. It'll take me much, much less time with this. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a lot more fun, a lot easier. There we go. That's nice and simple. So we have our clean sort of edge to work from, up and down here to do our main bulk of the inner part of the field. Just move back over here to get that little bit that we missed at the very top of the field. I can see where it is. Here it is. Let's get that tagged. Good stuff. And now all we need to do is just kind of run up and down here, getting this middle section planted. And once we've done that, we just repeat the fiddly stuff but on the opposite side. This field will be done within the next sort of 2 hours. I reckon we'll probably be done by probably around about 9 o'clock at the latest. So I'm going to crack on with this, and I'll see you in a little while, hopefully when it's much, much brighter. Well, I said I thought we might be done by 9 o'clock at the latest. It's not even 8:30 and I am practically done. I've just got this little bit here and then one single pass halfway up the other end of the field, which you can kind of just make out there, that triangle up there. That's it, that's all that's left. This field has taken no time at all to seed. Been really, really quick and easy to do. Bit too quick, really. It's just completely caught me out as to just how fast this field would get seeded. I'm so used to seeding with that pronto. I never realised it would be over this quickly on this field, which is encouraging because it means that we can actually get a few things done today. You know, field 1 isn't going to take us that much longer than this field did. Field 15 will take us probably about the same amount of time as field 1. All three of those are going to get seeded, and at this kind of speed, probably by early afternoon at the very latest. After that, we'll have our cows to deal with, and then after that, we might possibly even be able to get started cleaning out fields. One of the fields over by Southview Farms, you know, fields 5, 6, 7, and 8. We might even be able to clean off the cover, the dead crop of one of the two dead fields over there. So. Yeah, this is going very, very well indeed. This new cedar, absolutely fantastic in terms of how much time we've saved. Look at that, there we go, we're done. Not even 8:30 and this field is finished. And our trusty 7R performing absolutely admirably as well. It's back up to full spec with its restoring over the winter period. Complete rebuild of the engine. So just trundle down our little man-made path here. And that's where we're going to attack next. That field actually will probably take a little bit longer because it's a little bit wider, a little bit narrower, a little bit shorter as well. So we won't get it done quite as quickly. We'll have to make more turns, I think. Now, the trick on this one is going to be getting in and unfolded at the right angle, without hitting the hedges. There we go, just about in position. And we're putting canola on this field, aren't we? There we go. Nearly started planting barley again. Cedar switched on. And off we go. Definitely a little bit brighter now, as you can see. Sun is up a little bit more. Still a little bit sort of hazy and overcast. It's probably going to stay this way for quite some time. Who knows, we might see the sun properly. You might get some nice blue skies later on, but at the moment, pretty miserable. So it's what, 10:15 and already this field is done as well. This is brilliant. I can't believe how quickly we're getting through our planting jobs today. This is just so much faster than I was expecting. It took us an eternity to do our planting last year, but I'm absolutely breezing through it with this. I'm loving it. I'm so glad that I went for this cedar over the Lemken. And it's not that much more expensive either. The Lemken, I think, would have cost us around about 110, 115, somewhere in that kind of price range. This cost me, what, 140 something? 142, I think it was. That's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. You know, an extra 30 grand, and I've got a working width of 18.2 metres as opposed to 12 metres. Same seed tank capacity, so in theory, it'll run out quicker, but it will plant more in that same, well, maybe more, maybe less, but it's more versatile as well because I can do my root crops with this, I can do my row crops with this, so we can get some corn planted with this, which we are going to do on part of field 18. We're going to partition a little section of that field off. We're not going to churn up any of the ground or or put trees in or anything like that to block it off. We're just going to leave a strip of land unplanted between the soybean and the corn. But I need to do it in such a way that I can get all my equipment up the field to do the chaffing when the crop is ready and ripe enough. So my initial thoughts as to how I was going to do that might actually have to change. Let me think about it. I suppose I could possibly have done corn on there, but I didn't want to give up an entire field. So what I was thinking of doing was having this section here as corn. You know, from maybe about here where the tree is, just a few rows, you know, running down here. Maybe 2 passes with the cedar, with our current cedar. But I realised that I'm also then going to need to not plant anything down the side here, so I can actually get the tractor down there with the chaffer, and another tractor with a trailer, or you know, the same tractor with the trailer down here as well, so I can get in and out of this field. Yeah, I'm going to have to do it like that, because the corn's going to be ready to chaff before the soybean's ready to harvest. So we'll have to make sure that we leave at least a width. Have to remember to do that. I've got this horrible feeling I'm going to forget, and I'm going to plant soybean right to the very edge of the field, just from, you know, sort of force of habit. So I have to make sure that I don't do that. And look at this, look, we've still got 40% of our seed left, having done 2 fields. We've still got 40% of our seed in the tank. Now, that may change as we switch over to wheat to do field 15. That might not be enough to do all of the field. You know, it depends what the drop rate on the seed is. You know, for wheat, it might drop a little bit faster than canola. I guess we'll find out in a few moments. The only drawback to the cedar is because it's so long, it does make some of these turns a little bit tighter, a little bit more awkward. It's going to make taking this out towards Southview Farms tricky. We might have to seek permission from the landowners to cut through those fields again and then come up through the back of the store, because this might be quite problematic to try and get onto the road. You know, we're only going to be able to turn so, you know, at a certain radius. So we're going to take up the entire road just pulling out of our farm, and just getting to the road is going to be tricky. There are some pretty sharp 90-degree bends around there, and I don't know if we're going to have space to actually turn all the way around with this. So yeah, going out that way might be the only way we can actually get to fields 5, 6, 7 and 8 when we come to plant grass on them. Let's get the cedar unfolded again. Excuse me, there we go. That'll be interesting as well, because this cedar is so much wider. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly we come up against those lamp posts, those telegraph poles. I call them lamp posts. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly we come up against those, and on top of that, how easy it's going to be for us to actually work around them with this new monster cedar compared to what we had last year. I mean, last year, the thing I love about the Pronto is it's just so easy to turn on a dime with that thing. You know, it's got such a short length that it's so compact as a cedar that it really is incredibly maneuverable on a field. This thing, not so much. It's a little bit more cumbersome. You can't get the same amount of sort of steering lock and turning angle with this cedar that you can with the Pronto. Yeah, it could be very interesting indeed. Trying to figure that one out. I guess we'll just have to keep our eyes open and see how we get on. Well, look at this. I mean, we're at 11:15. We say we started at, let's say we started at 10:45, and we started slightly before that, but let's say we start at 10:45. I wonder what time we'll be finished. I think, given the speed that we've been getting through the other fields, I think we'll be done by 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock at the latest. I don't think it'll take us, beyond that, really. This is going to be a pretty quick and straightforward planting job for us. The only thing that might slow us down is if we run out of seed, and I'm watching how fast that's going down, and I think we might possibly run out of seed. Might have to go and do a quick splash and dash. We do still have that pallet in our shed as well. We will use that up at some point. Oh, speaking of pallets, that reminds me, I need to retrieve our lime from the other side of the hedge on field 17. That little bit of lime that we emptied out of our spreader is still nestled the other side of the hedge, so I must go and get that. I'll do that a little bit later, if I remember. Knowing me, I'll probably forget by the time I'm done with this field. But we're going to attack the cow. We're going to attack the cow barn after this. Make sure that we get the food mix up, get the water in the troughs, clean out the manure. We'll really kind of get those guys sort of prepped and settled and ready. And I think we might possibly add a few extra cows in. Given how much money we actually were able to sort of bring in with our greenhouses yesterday, some of that was offset against wage costs. It also covered our loan expenses and other little fees that go out every day. But we still ended up, in a pretty nice financial position this morning. Still end up with more money at the start of the day than we did at the end of yesterday. Which is a really nice position to be in. So I think that's going to allow us to go out and buy a couple more cows. I'm thinking, how many do I want to get? I've still got that extra 10 grand in the bank as well, don't forget. So I could take that out. Cows are what, 2.5 grand each, so that's 4 cows right away. And then if I take money out of whatever I've got on me, I'm trying to think, how many cows do I actually have? Let's have a look. At the moment, I think I've got 15. I've got 16 now. Of course, we've had a new one grow, so they are popping in every 82.5 hours at the moment. 78 hours to the next one. So it's slow progress breeding them at the moment because the numbers are so limited. But we quite comfortably just missed a spot there. Just a little spot. Gone back way further than I needed to, but there's 2 spots. There's the first one there, and then that thin line just there. So I wanted to make sure I could tag them both. Yeah, in terms of the cow numbers, I would like to get them up a bit this year so we can produce milk at a slightly faster rate. Again, that's going to help provide income and help us clear our debt. And the quicker we can start paying the debt down, the less our expenses or less our fees are going to be every day, which is always a good thing. But on top of that, it does also mean that if we can continue to make money at the rate that we have been doing so far already at the start of this year, it really does give me hope for how quickly we can start to expand the farm throughout the year in terms of new equipment and potentially new land as well. I have said that I would like to get field 17 up and running and have that as a meadow, in which case what I would probably do is then plough out the rest of field 19 and turn that into a second field. Maybe that could be our cornfield, for next year, for silage and possibly harvesting as well. Maybe harvest some of the field and silage the rest of it. I'll have to have a ponder on that. (11), so we've been going for nearly half an hour. The border of the field is done. Some of the trickier stuff is done. Just slow down a little bit more. There we go. Set cruise control at 10. I think speed is 9 for planting with this, but by slowing down just a little bit, it means I can now just lift and turn and then drop as soon as I complete the turn without having that lurching acceleration. I meant to do that yesterday with the 6R for cultivating and I completely forgot. It does make things so much easier, being able to lift and just turn at a nice consistent speed all the way through, and then just drop and keep going at that same speed without, as I say, having that sudden lurch of acceleration and then having to slam the brakes on, and you end up turning too sharply because you panic steer. It's when you've got much more control over your speed, it makes everything so much easier. So we get to the end. Lift. Controlled turn at the same... Oop. It's me trying to do a controlled demonstration, and the first thing I do is drive into a bush. Lovely stuff. And again, done it again. I thought I could turn a little bit tighter and get away with it. There we go. So I'll try that again. I'm going to have a telegraph pole in the way now. At least we can see how easy it'll be for us to maneuver our way around this. We're going to have to sort of do a circle around it. But how tight we can get around it, that's the question. And this is one of those things that I've kind of been a little... I wouldn't necessarily say obsessed with, but enamoured with, I suppose would be a better term. This kind of just circular planting motion like this around an object. Ever since I saw it on a Big Bud video, which was featuring a sort of a cedar in the style of the Hatzenbichler Terminator, with the grey seed hopper behind it. Ever since I've seen that video where I watched it just kind of going up and down a field, and then it came to a big tree in the middle of the field and it just kind of looped around the tree like that, and then carried on back around and kept raising and lowering the cedar so it wasn't planting over the same area too much. And it was just really cool to watch that. If I can remember where it is and find the link, I'll stick it in the video description so you can see what I'm talking about. But no, ever since I've seen that video, I've always been kind of fascinated by that kind of technique of just doing a loop around an object like that, and just seeing the swirl of the seed bed just being planted in that kind of circular motion and then carrying straight on again. It just looked the visual was very striking. It looked really cool. So I'll have to see if I can dig that out, and if I remember, I'll stick the link to that in the video description down below, so you can have a watch and see what I'm talking about. Right, so lift, turn, and drop. There we go, perfect. That's exactly what I meant to do last time before I drove into a bush. So I'll carry on working away on this field here. We're up to 11:30. Like I said, I reckon I'll be done by 1 o'clock at the latest. So I will see you as we get towards the end of this field, and we'll see whether we get done before 1. I've just glanced at my seed count, and well, there we go. We are out of seed. That happened a little bit faster than I was expecting. So yeah, that's going to slow us down a little bit as we drive off to go and refill. I may as well refill the cedar all the way up, or as much as I can afford to anyway, because we're going to need the seed to do our own field still remaining after this one, field 18. Plus, we're also going to need to seed 4 other fields with grass, fields 5, 6, 7 and 8, so it makes sense to just put as much seed into this as we possibly can. We're still going to have to do another refill at some point. There's that lime there that we need to deal with. Am I close enough to the seed tank? Not quite. A little bit closer. There we go. So I'm going to need to grab that pallet from there, and then you can just see there, next to the 4 fertilizer pallets, one of which is almost completely empty, we have a partial seed bag as well. Oh, and there we go. We're out of cash. Down to minus £5. That'll come back to us in an hour. We'll get an extra £120 in about an hour. So I'll slowly start to regain some cash over the rest of the day now. We might end the day in a slight bit of debt once all of our bills go out at midnight. But that's a small price to pay. So let's get lined back up again. Time is 12 o'clock. Or 5 minutes past, 6 minutes past. So we have, if we're going to meet our theoretical target, we have just under an hour to finish this field off. I think we can do that. I can't see that being a major problem. Well, we're definitely going to be done before 1 o'clock, as you can see. Going to have one small tidy up pass left to do. Still plenty of seed left in the tank for our next planting job, although that's not going to be today. So come tomorrow, hopefully we'll actually have a bit of extra cash that we can use to top the cedar up a bit more. We still have that little partial pallet as well. I'm not quite sure how much seed is in there. I think it's over 1,000 litres. Look at that, just a little patch just there. So close. Thought we could get it done with just this pass here, but there's that little bit that needs to be cleared. There we go. So let's tag that last little bit, and then we can get this folded, washed and put away, and then we can start working on the pigs, on the cows. They are in desperate need of that top up. I might go and buy 4 more. Oh wait, no. Actually no, because we'll get that extra 120 at 1 o'clock. There we go. Field is done. That's it. That's all of our planting done for today. And it's not even 1 o'clock. That has been really, really quick and easy to get done. Let's increase the operating speed. Or the cruise control speed. Actually, I want to set that at 18, don't I, for traffic speed. There we go. So we'll get this washed before we put it back in the shed. And we're going to use the 6R, I think, to head over to pick up those extra cows. I am going to take out the extra 10,000 that's left over from our overdraft and get 4 more cows. That'll put us on 20. That's a good round number, I think. It'll speed up our reproduction rate a little bit more as well, which is always a good thing. It will also speed up our milk production, so that little bit of expense right now will pay off in the long run with increased milk yield and a faster reproduction rate, which means more money at both sides. You know, the faster reproduction rate just means, you know, milk volume goes up, you know, at a faster rate. Back this in. There we go. That's attached. And turn the light off. We're done in here for the day. And we're done with this shed completely, so we can close the door. Won't need to open that again for another couple of days. And we can put the 7R away as well. We're going to be using this a bit more sparingly this year. Now that we've got 3 tractors on our farm. As you can see, 31.3 hours on this tractor, and most of that, almost all of it was last year. So yeah, big difference. You can see we've already put 2.7 hours on the 6R. This is what we're going to go and use to grab the cows. And there we go. We've got 235 in the bank. Oh, it's... it said 60 per day on the greenhouses. That must be the hard price then. Must be double that on medium. We're playing on a normal economy, so I was expecting 120, and it looks like it's giving us 120 per greenhouse. Interesting. That's why we kept making so much money yesterday. Right, let's head to the loan tab. Let's take out the last 10 grand. There we go. We'll make our way over to the animal dealership, pick up another 4 cows, bring them back, and then we'll mix up a whole batch of TMR for 20 cows rather than the 16 that we have right now. Alright, let's get these new cows tucked away in the barn. Let's get the gate open first of all. There we go. And I'll make the turn. Whoa, it's tight. Just about. There we go. Slightly wonky. Let's just straighten up a bit. We are good. Right. Let's get the ramp lowered down. Get these cows out. There we go. Fantastic stuff. So our herd is now up to 20 and is ready for a big batch of food and water. So that is our next job before we head back with the 6R, because we're going to need the... actually, we can use the 6R to kind of do some bits and bobs as well as... Did I leave the front loader attached? I did, didn't I? I left it attached to the 6M. Never mind. Let's close this down. We'll have to go back in there in a bit, but while we're in the 6R, let's hook up to the water tanker and take that around to the water trough. We'll just finish filling this up. There we go. And while we're looking at that, let's just see which of these fields do we want to work first. It's going to be 5 or 7. Those are the 2 fields that we need to clean. They're the ones with a dead crop, a withered crop on the fields, as you can see on 5 and 7 here. So we need to cultivate those out before we can plant. And then 6 and 8 are both ready for just planting. So that'll be straightforward. But I want to try and do all the planting in one go. Save having to keep coming back with the cedar on multiple trips. So we'll get the old crop cleaned away first. I think it's going to be the best way to go about that. Make our way around the edge of the grass here. And maybe a little bit later on this year we can look at getting some sheep as well, but there are other things that are perhaps a little bit more important than taking on a second animal type. Getting a little bit more land, getting equipment selection improved and expanded, they are going to take priority and precedence over getting some more animals to deal with. You know, cows is one thing, adding a few extra cows here and there is one thing, but adding in a completely separate animal type on top of the ones that we already have just increases the amount of work that we have to do. And because we'll only be bringing in a few, because that's all we'll be able to afford, so I'm trying not to hiccup while I'm talking here, which is why my voice suddenly goes a bit weird. I'm trying to if we only bring in just a small number of sheep, then you know it's more animals that we've got to tend to, but the wool rate won't be particularly high, so it won't necessarily be worth the reward for quite some time until they start producing a lot more wool. And on top of that, you know, the breeding rate's going to be really low as well, because again, be very low numbers, so it just isn't really worth it at this stage. Much rather, you know, bring in a good 30-40 sheep in a single go if I can. I think that would be better for us. So we could use the 6R for all of our sort of cow work, but we're not going to. We're going to use it to basically just run the food mixer, and our 6M is going to be the one that loads it. So we'll need to get that gate open again. Come on, gate, open up. There we go. Ooh, we just clipped the water trailer there, didn't we? That was a little clumsy. Let's try and reposition. Also, what I want to do is... we actually talked about this yesterday, about using the silage as an emergency food buffer. After today, once we've tied it up, I will be using the silage to go into the mix, I think, into the mixer rather than into the trough, because by then we'll have about 5,000 litres or so, maybe a little bit more of available backup food. So you know, any other silage can then go into the mixer as part of our next batch of TMR. Let's grab the 6M. There it is. So we've got a couple of jobs that we need to do. We need to top up our straw levels, we need to top up our food levels, and we're going to need the bale spikes for both of those. Nearly drove into that post then. I had to suddenly change and open up the steering a little bit because I was in danger of crashing into the frame of the shelter there. I'm not going to use this straight away, but I'm going to bring this out because we will be using this soon. So let's just plonk it here for a second and attach the bale spikes. There we go. So I want one of each bale, but we need quite a few mixes. Last time, when we only had 12 cows, it took 7 bales of each to get our food trough almost completely done. So this is going to eat up most of our supplies, but this will keep them good for most of the year. I need to take the weight off the front of the 6R, I think. Stick it on the back of this. So I'll bring the bales out 2 at a time, just so that it makes it a little bit easier for us to mix our TMR on the go. I'll plonk those there, like that. Let's just drop that weight off. There we go. Good stuff. Now we'll get back in the 6M. There we go. Get the weight hooked up. Let's grab a couple of silage bales. Let's get the light on in here as well, so we can see what we're doing. Just trying to remember where the switch is in here. There it is. Yeah, nice and illuminated in here. Our electrician did a cracking job getting our farm wired up at the end of last year. Definitely much easier to work in and around the yard now. Right, so if I can judge this about right, do that. Now, hopefully, if I can get this to work right, might have not left myself much room to play about with here, but if I can spike these two. Whoops. I sent the other ones flying. I was kind of worried about that. Never mind. I can now just drop these straight into the mixer. Assuming I've got enough clearance. Yes, just. So. Engine on. Mixer on. Unload. It's unloading on the wrong side really, but there's not a lot we can do about that, unfortunately. But there we go. We have got some TMR going in. So if we take a look at our levels, you can see a lot of food is going to be needed to get these guys up to snuff. So I'm going to press on and mix up a whole ton of TMR for these guys. Then I'll muck out the cows and tidy up the food trough mess as well, and I'll see where we are time-wise once all that is done. Last shovel of manure, and then the cows are completely cleaned and mucked out and fully fed and watered as well. So I think that's probably going to all we're going to have time for today. I mean, it's coming up on 5 o'clock. It's going to only be light for a couple of hours. I don't think I'm going to have time, unfortunately, to make a start on field 5. It's just going to take too long, and I'm going to be working in the dark for the vast majority of that job, I think. So what I might well do instead is, let me just have a quick drive over. Let's just close this shed up, or close this gate up. Let's just go check the state of our greenhouses. We might need to top those up instead, and then just call it a day there. Let's see how much manure is left in them, and how much water. Uh, 50-50. Oh, excuse me, 50-60, sorry. So still plenty of supplies left. Don't need to top those up just yet. They'll be good until the end of tomorrow, and then we'll need to tidy them up from there. So instead, what I'll do then is I'll hose down this silage tool, get that all squared away in the sheds, and then I think we'll just have an early day, an early finish. I thought the planting would take a bit longer, which is why I started, at around 6:30 in the morning. But if I'd realised we'd be done with the planting that quickly, I would have stayed in bed for an extra hour and probably got started around 7:30 instead. So never mind. At least we've got a kind of a timetable figured out for how long it's going to take to do our planting for next year on those fields, which is good. There we go. Everything cleaned. Let's get this put back in the sheds. Close it up as well. There we go. And I'm going to leave the water trailer in tandem with the mixer there, because we're going to need the water trailer before we're going to need the mixer. We're not going to need that again until towards the end of the year now, or at least towards the end of summer, I think, is when we're going to next need to do some food mixing. So we should be good up until that point. Let's just take a quick look at our cows again. There you can see our levels, 100% cleanliness, pretty much full on water, not quite full on straw, and we did have 70,000 litres in the food trough, and that's just dipped ever so slightly, as if had a little bit of a nibble on the supplies. So we're up to 5,000 litres in milk again. What's the price like for milk right now? Not bad, 1,438. That's not too bad at all, but we'll hang on to it. There's no need to sell the milk just yet. We can look at maybe selling that off tomorrow. Oh, I do need to disconnect the weight in case I need that for the 6R. In fact, I will need that for the 6R tomorrow when we're cultivating. So plan of action tomorrow then is to go and cultivate out fields 5 and 7. They are, I believe, the two fields that we need to get cultivated. Let's just get rid of that help window. There we go. Yes, 5 and 7 are the two fields that we need to clear off. We're going to do that tomorrow. And then if we have time, we'll try and get all 4 fields planted tomorrow. And then day 4, we're going to look at clearing that field off so that we can then plant it on day 5 with soybean for the most part. And then, that stretch down here, we'll put some corn in, and we'll put a few rows of corn in so that we can chaff that for silage later in the summer. So all that remains now is for me to say thank you for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor. very soon.